Shane Dribshack for the Basketball in Focus. Another Thursday night. Got a busy night lined up this evening. Got some people coming in from Smith High School on the way in. Got some Eastern Guilford Wildcat women and men tonight. We're talking about their big game tomorrow night against Northern Guilford. Talking about Smith, their huge game at Dudley tomorrow night. You got Rashid Suleiman from Duke dismissed from the team today. They let him go today. A lot of basketball going around, a lot of basketball work. Have we got Michael Fields with us from GTCC. Michael, good to see you, and you've been doing some work for us on the website. Tell the people some of the things you've been up to lately, some of the things that you've been covering.
Yes, I've been covering GTCC basketball, men's and women's a little bit, but I've been focusing on Vandalia Christian School, their varsity boys basketball program, because they're off to a really hot start of the season, so I've been covering them a little bit.
How far along in the season now is Vandalia? About, I would say 2/3, actually maybe about 3/4 of the way through the year now.
Right. They're gearing towards the end of the year, probably 2/3, 3/4, I'd say so, yes, sir.
How long before the playoffs kick in for them? Around the first or second week of February in that neighborhood? Maybe
yeah,
about the second week?
Probably second or third week of February. Regionals and playoffs to start hitting off.
Do you go with them on the road to and follow them there, or just maybe try to catch the home games? How's it work out with your schedule with GTCC and everything going on?
Right. Well, I hit most of the home games. I try to hit as many away games as I can. The nearest away games I pretty much go to.
Mm-hmm. And who's been their toughest competition so far this year? I saw they played Alamance Christian School, a big game a couple of weeks back, and so they dropped that game to Alamance Christian School. Who else has been tough along with them?
Right. Alamance is one of their big competition. They have a big game Friday night coming up at Gospel Light Christian. That's
yeah, so Gospel Light just beat Alamance the other night. That's pretty interesting too.
And Gospel Light, they're still undefeated in conference play, and Vandalia's only got one conference loss, so that'll be a huge game. They actually play them Friday night and Monday night, back to back.
Really, back to back, getting close in the regular season. Then that's two big games: Gospel Light and the location tomorrow night's game.
Yes, in Walkertown.
In Walkertown tomorrow night on the road, and again on Monday back at Vandalia. Then
in Pleasant Garden, yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, Michael Fields with us from GTCC and Vandalia Christian, and he's doing some writing for the website now. He's going to be back with us later on during the program, also talking more about what he's been up to and more about the team, and maybe give some details about that GTCC men's team. I know they've kind of had some ups and downs this year too.
Right. Yeah, they have. I saw, especially at the beginning of the year, they had their struggles, but they're starting to get the groove back a little bit. I was able to go to the Wake Tech game, and they got the win in the nail biter there, so that was a very good game to go to.
Yeah, you had that Wednesday. I think you had back-to-back men's and women's games at GTCC. Pretty busy time over there then.
It sure was. The women's game wasn't really a game. They won by about 40 or 50 points, so let's say the men's game was a little bit more interesting than the women's.
And you got the kid Khalil Walton out of Western Guilford on the team. There's a kid Ryan Pisani out of Northern Guilford on the team. There's a kid Lowry out of Eastern Guilford. Got quite a few local guys at GTCC team this year.
Oh yeah, Eastern, Northern, like you said. There's people from Guilford and Randolph all around the area. A bunch of good players on the team.
There's a kid out of Eastern Randolph on there too. His last name may be Smith. The Smith kid, maybe from Eastern
Mike
Randolph.
Smith, I think.
Also, exactly. And then you had a kid from Western Guilford, Carnique Marks, the Marks kid, or I think it's Carnique. I know he's got a sister over there too. They're both out of Western Guilford on the GTCC team, but I think the Marks kid may have Carmani. I think it's Carmani for the young man and Carnique for the young lady. I think he may have dropped off because I think even in the junior college ranks, so to speak, in the community college ranks, you're going to lose a few players between semesters.
Yeah. A little bit of grades definitely matter, especially even in community college.
Now, how are the grades going for you over there so far? You told us you're in process of finishing up your second year at GTCC. Michael Fields with us with Guilford Technical Community College with the Titans, and then you're getting ready to maybe move on to UNCG next year.
Yes, sir. In the fall, I'll be starting at UNCG and hopefully get to cover some of their games too for Greensboro Sports.
But keep us going, Michael. We'll talk to you again later during the program. Good to have you focus. And Michael, you've had a chance to see how the program runs. A lot of good kids here this evening. A lot of good young talent coming through at Shane's on this Thursday.
That is right. A bunch of young stars from Eastern Guilford men's and women's program and Smith team. Good talent right there.
So if you could match up and take on one of these young players, a little one-on-one action, who's the first person you challenge here tonight? Anybody on these players you'd like to challenge?
I don't know. The guys are probably a lot quicker than me since I've gotten out of high school and gotten a little bigger now. So I'd probably pick one of the girls, but they'd probably still beat me.
That's pretty good.
That's still got a lot of talent there.
That's not a bad idea. We got Callie Patterson. We got Ariel Shears. We got Coach Britton. Coach Britton could take on a lot of people in this room and beat these people. She's tough, and she wants to coach men's basketball. And I think she will. I think she'll be a boys basketball coach maybe one day. Give us Michael Fields' impressions about what he's seen with Guilford Technical Community College this year with the Titans team.
Right. I was able to go, like I said before, I was able to go to the game Wednesday, and word around campus before the game is, they're not having the greatest season. They're having their ups and downs, and I was kind of curious to see how they'd act on Wednesday night. And they came in and they played a hard-fought game against a talented Wake Tech team, and they came out with a nail-biter win. But what surprised me through the whole game is the Wake Tech team had a lot of players that had played in the Division I and other ranks that had slid down there to
some
Wake
of those
Tech.
guys have been at the bigger schools and transferred back down to the technical college then.
Right, and GTCC, pretty much all their players are just from the local high schools, and they come out there and still beat them. That's saying a lot about local high school talent in Greensboro, I'd say.
Where are they at on the schedule right now? How far along is GTCC with the regular season schedule? Are they getting closer to the end, winding it down, and they just kind of get in the middle section? Where are they at?
I know they play a lot of games. I think they're maybe in the middle towards the winding down section, because I know they play a lot of games in their tournaments.
Have you had a chance to meet the coach over there? Talk to him any at all?
I have not.
Just mainly as a spectator checking that game out
Just
recently.
spectator.
Yeah. Any games coming up soon you may be checking out again?
I know they have a away game this weekend, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check the schedule. They might have a home game maybe next week or something.
And they play the home games at the Ragsdale YMCA there on High Point Road?
That's correct, yes.
What's that like as a facility? Some of the people say, well, heck, we've got a nice gym over at Grimsley. We've got this nice gym at Page. Here
Right.
we are on the Ragsdale YMCA. Kind of set the scene in there for us.
Right, it's kind of different, especially when you think you're going to a college game, you go to a YMCA, but I love the atmosphere when I attended. A lot of people from the YMCA that were just there to play basketball, they come over and watch the game, and it's a friendly atmosphere. I liked it.
And one of the good things, I guess, is the fact it's a new YMCA. It's a fairly new facility, which is good. It's not like you're stuck at the old Y downtown on the edge of town where the people are just coming out and coming in. You're in a pretty good location.
And it's right there close to the campus, so there's a lot of influence there already from GTCC. So I love the atmosphere.
What do you think it's like for a guy going to GTCC? Because there's so many colleges, especially if you look at them and look at Division I level, and got to maybe study some of the differences. Division I, you're living on campus. You got a full scholarship. Everything's paid for. GTCC, I mean, there are no scholarships.
No.
You're playing, Ragsdale YMCA. You're commuting. Talk about some of the differences those guys might see there. That's got to be a lot different.
Yeah, I know it's a lot different for them, especially practice-wise, because they have to practice around their schedule. So I know they've said in the past they have practices at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. just to get in practice before classes and even after it. So it's a lot different, especially like you said, the commuting and everything. But I'm sure they adapt, and they're just happy to play basketball at the next level.
What about the Vandalia Christian School season? How do you see that season going, and which direction you see it taking? It's almost over.
Right. I really like the way they're going with their season. Like we mentioned, they suffered a heart-wrenching loss to Alamance last week, a big-time rival. But they responded from that. They have a 3-game winning streak going into a big game Friday night. I think the loss was a really wake-up call. Showed them what they needed to fix, and I think they have fixed that, and they can't wait for the 2 games.
You mentioned the recent game you wrote up. They played a team. I don't remember which team it was. You'll be able to tell me. It said they're starting to develop a pretty good camaraderie, pretty good rivalry with that team, a new team. Who was that team? You remember? That most recent game, maybe?
Might have been, let's see, it was Fellowship.
Okay,
It was Fellowship Baptist, yes.
So pretty good battles developing between those two, and a pretty good rival between those two schools then.
Right, yeah, it has been. Because their school is just basketball, so that's all they focus on. So it's getting to be a good rivalry.
Is that the school out of Raleigh or Durham?
Durham,
yeah.
right,
I read a little bit about those guys.
Yeah.
Strictly like you say. Don't they have like an early season tournament down at Fellowship?
I think so,
big tournament start of the year?
I know I've heard in the past, even in the off season, they have an AAU team, just their team.
Just their school.
Pretty much they play.
How about the Vandalia guys? Do those guys play off-season ball? Vandalia's kids?
A bunch of Vandalia kids, they play different sports. I know a bunch of them on the team do, but there's some that play AAU in the summer and stuff. But
have you met the coach over there? Do you know him pretty well, Ryan Nelson?
Yes, he was my JV coach when I was at Vandalia, so I know him pretty well.
And did you ever run into Mr. Adams back in the day? Tommy Adams, he was here a couple of weeks ago.
Right, he was my varsity coach at Vandalia, so I know him pretty well as well.
And you picked up some pretty good traits from Mr. Nelson, Mr. Adams in over the years.
Yeah, I have.
Describe Mr. Adams as a coach, I guess. What kind of coach is Mr. Adams, Tommy, back in the day?
I would consider him as a coach that would do anything for his players. He was a type of coach that was really personable. You come up to him after practice and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and he'd help you with it. Or I mean, he was just all around a good guy, good coach. Him and his son Luke, I know he helped him as an assistant, so it was kind of a family thing. When Mr. Nelson, Coach Nelson, came in, he's the brother-in-law or son-in-law, so sticking in the family.
Keeping on
right
the family
there.
right there, exactly.
Coaching at
What
Vandalia.
about this guy, Luke Oates at Vandalia? Did you ever know Mr. Oates?
Yeah, he was my teacher when I was at Vandalia and my JV soccer coach. So I know Mr. Oates as well.
He's
Yes,
spent a
sir.
lot of good, hard-earned years there, I think. Put a lot of time at that school over the
Yeah,
years.
most of his time outside of college when he started teaching was at Vandalia, I'm pretty sure.
And this year's Vandalia team, a few more notes about those guys before we close it out tonight. Who do you see being the leaders on that team? I think you mentioned there was one kid in the last game that has stepped up. You've not seen a lot of offensive leadership from him before, and you said it was kind of good if he stepped up and another kid stepped up.
Right.
It took a little pressure off of Noah Dunn and some of the other guys.
Yeah, Matt Hobbs and Bryson Gordon, they're the other two starters because the other three starters, Noah Dunn, Jared Talley, and Cam Alston, they get a lot of attention. And if those two guys, Matt Hobbs and Bryson Gordon, they step up offensively, defensively, play as a team, Vandalia is going to be tough to beat.
Michael Fields with us from Guilford Technical Community College. When did you develop your love of the game?
I've always loved it as a kid. I played it growing up. There was a Saturday league at Vandalia, so I've played since I was first grade. Played all through junior varsity and varsity, so I've always loved the game, always will love the game.
How about the job you've done starting to pick up some of the writing about these stories? How'd you get involved in that?
It's pretty interesting. I've always wanted to do something sports related, getting at it when I finished school, and I've been blessed to write for a couple of sports websites, and I just took the advantage, took the opportunity, and just went with it.
How did they find out about you, or how did you find out about them back in the beginning?
The first website was actually through social media, through Twitter. A guy messaged me, and I messaged him back, and we started talking, and I started writing about Carolina Panthers and North Carolina Tar Heels, and then the opportunity arose with Greensboro Sports.
So you're kind of more or less a Carolina man in the Carolina Panthers and Carolina Tar Heels. Those are your teams.
Yes, sir.
And got a love of the game with the Panthers. Any particular players that you follow closely with them, or just?
I like Luke Kuechly, to be honest. I love him as a leader. I love the way he plays. He plays 100% all the time, and I just love him as a player and as a leader.
What about with the Tar Heels this year? Do you have a favorite down there? They picked up some big wins the past few days.
Yeah, I used to stick with a homeboy, the native Theo Pinson, but since he's hurt, have to, I guess, change to somebody else. But I love Marcus Page and
good
JP
leadership on Page's
Tokoto.
part. Yeah, Tokoto's. I think once P.J. Hairston got knocked out of the lineup and had to lead the team last year, it seemed like beginning of last year, Tokoto just picked his game up and took it to a whole different level.
He's excelling them to, especially on offense and defensively. I think he's excelling them to the next level.
Bryce Johnson's done a good job for them too, rebounding especially.
And Kennedy Meeks,
he's a monster, isn't he?
He is. Keeps losing weight, keeps getting bigger. That's always good for the Tar Heels.
He's kind of a good high school guy to remember too, because he came out of West Charlotte, I think it was, back in his day.
In Charlotte.
We used to see him around some of the games we cover over the website. We used to see Isaiah Hicks. He was out of Oxford Webb. We used to see him around quite a bit too. Those guys.
Yeah, they're in the States, so good coming out of high school. Still are getting better.
So Thea Pinson, how long is he out? About 6 weeks or longer?
I think so. It'll probably take him a while to recover that broken foot.
Do you see Harry Giles maybe going to North Carolina, or where do you think he might end up?
As a Carolina fan, I hope so, but it's really hard. Especially he's top 5 in his class, so everybody wants him. I hope he goes to Carolina, but if I had to choose right now where he would go, I would probably say Duke or Kentucky.
I know Duke was at his game when they played Greensboro Day last Tuesday. I know they were in High Point. Coach K was there, and Jeff Cable, I think they're scouting him out at that time.
Their assistants have been to a couple games when Coach K couldn't make it and stuff.
Very closely following Harry Giles.
Right.
If you had to lose one player off the North Carolina Tar Heel team, you've already lost Theo Pinson. You had to lose one player off that Carolina team. The men remaining, who could you least afford to lose off that team?
Least afford.
Yeah, he would be the biggest loss. You might have to pack it in if this guy had to leave the team for some reason, injury or whatever else. Who could you least afford to lose?
Probably say Marcus Page, especially when he exploded in the NCAA and HC tournament. He just proved to everyone that when somebody needs to score, the ball is going to be in his hands. So I'd say probably Marcus Page.
Rashid Suleiman is no longer with Duke, got dismissed from the team today.
Right.
Do you think that affects Duke's chances to still be a postseason involved team, maybe even make it to the Sweet 16 or deeper down the road to playoffs? Do you think that affects Duke down the road?
I think it will, because I know he was an upperclassman. He had a lot of experience, and Duke has a lot of young talent. But the experience always helps. I know they'll make the tournament, but especially a deep run, I think it'll affect it.
Here's a question you can answer that's going to help me today. Sometimes I might want to get a little help for myself.
Okay.
When do Duke and North Carolina play? When's that game? They haven't played yet, have they?
No.
When is that game coming up? It's got to come up soon. I mean, this season's leaving us.
I know. It has to be, I guess, sometime in February. I know one of their
Because they usually have to
matchups
play
is
twice in a man.
And their matchup's always the last game of the season before tournament one, but I'm not sure.
So I guess the last game will probably be early March, and the first game must be coming soon in February.
Probably in February sometime, when it's important, right?
Well, Michael, good job on your part. Thanks for being with us tonight. Shane's Ribs Check for Thursday.